The middle of the night beckons. The darkness beckons. And so here we are to talk about multimedia stuff. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, coming back on a Friday night into Saturday morning. Just enough, 1:33 at Jay's Geek House. Just enough time to advance the date. Just like last night we did the 2 streams and I ended one stream and hit midnight. I'll start another stream for the next day, like 5 minutes later or something along those lines. But yeah, we're here tonight to cower behind this microphone as usual, talking to this microphone as usual, broadcasting to nobody as usual. Who says reverse psychology is a way to grow a stream? Whatever, man. I actually made a YouTube short of a clip from a while back where I talked about the view distance from your televisions and just how important that is. I thought it was one of those things that sound like it'd be kind of cute to send around today's short video circuit. So I'm squaring off YouTube Shorts versus TikTok to see which short video service the more consistent performer, and so far the winner is TikTok by leaps and bounds. Yeah, YouTube has better integration with your YouTube channel because it's YouTube, but I just don't like how the numbers make it look like my videos were turned on and off in the system, so now I'm not going to get any views anymore. Just, look, YouTube, people don't like that stuff. So if you want to in any way be pro-creator, you know, as in for the creator, probably just got demonetized for that. But if you actually want to take the creator's side in something like this, you cannot have a situation where it looks like the computers keep your channel from amounting to something. Doesn't matter what system, what the reasoning is. People watch closely what it's like to be on YouTube, and they notice the difference as things get worse over the years. They notice, and I notice it too at my own classic YouTube project, which, by the way, I have probably the largest classic YouTube playlist on the entire platform now, and it still won't show up in the search results. It's still the same small, way smaller. One person has like 297 videos, and I'm like at 300 something. Older videos that represent the styles of the years gone by on YouTube. You can put that, you can go there, you'll get a YouTube logo when you start it up. While that YouTube logo is playing, turn on shuffle and repeat, and then just sit back and relax. It's like my decade TV with YouTube videos. You want to see what YouTube was like back in the days when I was first getting going and didn't have so much gray hair, then check it out. I mean, the only real thing that cannot be accurately reproduced is features that don't exist anymore, like, for example, annotations. There were some people that went way overboard on annotations in their videos back when annotations were a thing. So it's just one of those things where, look, the reason why TikTok is a growing, thriving platform with no dislike button, by the way, the reason why TikTok is such a growing, thriving platform is, well, as I've seen from just getting involved there, you start out with hundreds of views, even if those views are just someone scrolling through their phone. You know, you see those numbers and you feel like, well, people are at least seeing my content. I'm not having to fight an algorithm just to get any views at all. And this is the important thing that YouTube needs to take a very serious look at in the 2020s because, hey, you know, between Twitch and TikTok and anyone else who wants to get in on the action, how many more competitors to YouTube need to grow because of YouTube's mistakes? That's my question. How many smaller, nimble competitors need to grow and become popular among people who call themselves content creators because of YouTube's mistakes? How many more of those does there need to exist? That's not a rhetorical question. I want an answer. Anyways, YouTube can ponder that, especially as they continue to be sluggish with the release of features and competitors draw people to become multi-platform content creators instead of YouTubers. You know, I consider it redundant, really, to stream on Twitch and make YouTube videos at the same time. YouTube has more than enough streaming, especially if you're doing more evergreen-focused streaming. YouTube has more than enough streaming support to do everything on one channel. Between YouTube Shorts, YouTube videos, and YouTube streams. There's plenty of things you can do with a YouTube channel these days. So there is no excuse for YouTube routinely, sometimes to the tune of years, feeling like you're wasting your time because you're fighting with a computer system to get any views. And if you don't play nice with the robots, your channel goes nowhere, sometimes to the tune of years, like mine. I've been around 3,800 something subs since 2018. That's barely gone anywhere. It's gone up and come back down again. But the views have gone from hundreds of views to like 10 views a video. And I get made fun of on a regular basis for that. Now, who wants to see all their efforts on this platform go to waste and the trolls win because you can't get any views, no matter what you do, no matter what you try, no matter what help support article you get and you follow? How many people want to be on a platform that's like that versus you make a stupid 1-minute video with your smartphone of you like baking cookies or something, and it actually gets like hundreds of views in like 2 days when you're a nobody on the platform? Somewhere along the line, despite so many people I know, mostly older people, referring to YouTube as a millennials platform, somebody who may toss that very idea around seems to have forgotten the stereotype about millennials always wanting confirmation and affirmation with everything they do. Yeah, sure, your views on TikTok will consist of people scrolling through their phones. They may not even be watching more than a few seconds of your video, but you know eyeballs were on it. So you're driven because eyeballs were on your video, and a decent amount of them at that, you're driven to get better because you know you're not fighting against an algorithm to get anywhere at all. And then when you compare this up with what YouTube has turned into with the SOPs and the best practices and corporate crap, why wouldn't someone like me be upset about it? I joke about how being a YouTuber these days practically requires a $700 DSLR because so many of the big channels are working with those, to the point where I think that soup can camcorders are going out of style and they may be discontinued because, I mean, are you going to get views if you don't have a $700 camcorder these days, or DSLR? And between the algorithms and the audience who is conditioned to like the prettier videos, do you think you have any chance whatsoever if you are not mindlessly dropping $1,000+ in equipment? And we wonder why so many people want to just do TikToks or be streamers when making videos is such a project just to get your foot in the door. How did it sink to this? $100 microphone, but I could make do with something cheaper. Might not sound as good, but I'll use OBS to try and make up for it as best I can. $20 boom arm, less than $100 webcam on a computer I already have, versus having to mess with editing software, needing a super awesome camera because all the YouTubers are using super awesome cameras, and following the best practices so the algorithms don't alienate your video because you're too different from everybody else who's doing the same old thing. How's that an environment for long-term success on YouTube? That looks more like sabotage to me. That looks more like somebody wants to drive away all the creators and then just turn it into a giant corporate thing with movie rentals and basically be like a Google answer to Hulu. Sad. Let me just be the voice of reason like I often am with these discussions, even though nobody watches. Let me just be the voice of reason here. YouTube became what it is because they met demand that was unmet at the time. They had something in terms of making videos, even with crappy digital cameras and webcams back then. There was demand for it. And they rode the wave of that demand until they could replace it with something else. That is the great betrayal on YouTube. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'll invoke that rule that is so common in business that YouTube needs to be reminded of once again. YouTube, if not you, then who? The online media world is only one upstart away from somebody picking up where YouTube left off and maybe not abandoning this already proven successful way to grow a platform. Twitch did that for a bit. I remember when I first went over and watched some Twitch streamers, I started seeing some of the humanistic and community type stuff that I used to see on YouTube before everyone's videos became cookie cutter. You had all this crap where you won't get any views if you don't fall in line because the robots will stop you. There were some things on Twitch when I first started watching Twitch streamers that reminded me of early YouTube. What made YouTube successful can work. And if YouTube doesn't want to do it, all someone has to do out there is just pick up where YouTube left off. It won't be an upstart, though, probably not, now that I think of it. It'll probably be an established company that wants to gobble up the unmet market demand and grow something some way. So who will it be? I don't know. But corporate YouTube has its problems. I think we all know that by now. So let's talk about the HD reality check. So the HD reality check was my hard counter response to people that were saying that Blu-ray was going to take over the world back in the day. In today's world, I think it probably has an application in terms of keeping your head on straight as the world changes. So I spent this afternoon and evening playing some ESO, doing some grinding, while listening to all the old discussions I had with this series. The HD reality check. And I'm thinking about the last discussion I had was in 2018. Podcast on the old radio style series. So it's been a while, and I'm definitely overdue to chime back in on this, especially with this vacation. I've gotten back into Blu-ray and DVD and watching movies. And it's interesting to see how things have progressed. We live in a world now where it's Blu-ray that is the mainstream format, at least in terms of affordability. DVD is dollar store video disc. I don't know why you'd buy it for anything other than being some kind of a combo pack or something. And then 4K Blu-ray is the new enthusiast format that's priced really high. So one of the things I want to do is I went and I looked at my old rants. I went and looked at my old rants from 2009, 2010, 2011 as Blu-ray was doing the impossible, actually, becoming something in the middle of a recession, in a recession situation. A new technology rolling out in a recession. And how the heck did anybody make that work? Well, it did. So we can answer our questions later. As I take a look at these movies here. Not going to talk about any of them in particular, except the big three, Kronos, Samsara, and Baraka. But we've entered a world with this whole thing with HD. And I mentioned this earlier in the earlier discussions. What does HD even mean anymore? Because HD is basically the new standard def. 1080p is the new standard def these days. So what are you going to do? Say legacy def or low def, LD for all the old stuff like DVD and stuff? Or can we just start talking about the resolutions? 1080 stuff, 4K stuff, aka 2160 stuff. And then if we go back to DVDs, then 480. But there's upscalers out there that try and sharpen all this grotesquely outdated DVD stuff. Like, this is Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, my first ever DVD. I think this was like $25 for this special edition when I bought it. If you know what happened with the first Final Fantasy movie, then yeah. We can argue about whether or not it was $25 well spent for me to get this as my first DVD ever. But I still have it to this day, even though I never watch it. Cold ones at the ready. But we have an environment here. It used to be that Blu-ray was just, it cost too much, wasn't mainstream enough, etc. Well, welcome to the 2020s. The reason why we're having this discussion tonight. Talk about how all of this fits in with this new decade that we find ourselves in versus what we put up with in the 2010s. So, first off, we don't have a recession going on, but yet prices have dropped. Some of that, of course, is due to streaming. Previously, DVD was the mainstream format, Blu-ray was the enthusiast format. Today, nothing is the mainstream format out of what I'm holding in my hand right now. People have talked about this, comment sections on Reddit, in response to news articles and all kinds of other stuff. These days, any form of physical media is an automatic enthusiast format. There are probably subscription services out there that you can subscribe to, similar to, how Netflix has paved the way for all of this, that will give you access to certain types, Chronos separate from the list, from the pile, that will give you access to various titles in various formats. Frozen. Various titles in various formats. Why do I have Frozen? I had a cousin who had a kid who wouldn't stop watching this darn movie. And so her kid bothered her to constantly play Frozen and that darn Let It Go song. And then she kept bugging me to watch the movie. I don't know if it's kind of like making up for how her kid drove her nuts, but I eventually got to see what all the hoopla was about and kind of see where Disney and where the whole Disney Pixar thing had gone in terms of animation and stuff. But any physical media whatsoever, automatic enthusiast format, even if you're buying DVDs. DVDs in particular are a wild card in and of themselves. Why on earth would you buy a DVD if you can stream it? So that's the thing. If you can stream in HD, the most you can do with a DVD is upscale it to maybe around 720p quality or something. So if you can stream in 1080p, even at the budget quality that doesn't use a lot of bandwidth, why would you buy a disc? Special features. The Blu-ray will have better special features in many cases because people realize that dollar store video disc has had its day and it's kind of just around because you can put a DVD in a combo pack or something. Yeah, this Frozen's a great example. This is a collector's edition. Yeah, there we go. DVD and Blu-ray. These are all over the place. Usually DVD, Blu-ray, digital copy, like this Jurassic World one. Yep. I haven't even uncovered the DVD inside the materials yet. I haven't even bothered with the DVD yet. But this digital copy I got to activate for this thing, so I'll probably do that tonight. So, yeah, any physical media at all. Because streaming has picked up where DVD left off. What was one of the problems with upscale DVD versus Blu-ray a couple of years ago? Those magical two words that define the tastes of the mainstream multimedia market. Mainstream America. What's those magical two words? Good enough. Okay, yeah, And I tested this for myself with Samsara. You can stream a movie on Amazon or Netflix or something. It won't look as good as a Blu-ray, and you can even mathematically audit how much space how big was the Blu-ray disc they used for the movie versus the estimated data usage times the running length of the movie on Amazon Prime. And you can see that I looked at these numbers for Baraka. It's over at my Twitter, twitter.com/MultimediaJay. It's just my Avast Secure browser is all glitched out, so I gotta just uninstall it at this point. I'm not really benefiting from it anymore. I can get away with just Chrome and Firefox. It's getting and Microsoft Edge. It's getting redundant. But Baraka is one of those really nice looking movies. Yeah, see, 8K Ultra Digital HD. It was filmed with incredibly good equipment in the 1990s. And so when it was time to make a Blu-ray for it, obviously they did a really good job in the transfer. And Baraka became one of those movies that showed off what Blu-ray could do in your collection. I learned about this movie because of the folks over on HD Nation, if anybody remembers that show from the late 2000s. It was an old Revision 3 show with Patrick Norton and Robert Herron about big TVs and movies and Blu-ray and stuff. So they had like the recession selection and various segments in the show and stuff along those lines way back when. And that's where I found out about Baraka, because I was looking for some real serious eye candy to see what Blu-ray could do, because I was investing in Blu-ray. And I had already spent a decent amount of money just to get into it. I already tried a plug-in drive. I started on the computer side of things. And then when I bought a PS3, part of the reason why when I decided to get a console from that generation, I went with PS3 over 360 for Blu-ray support, whereas Xbox 360 ran off of regular DVD, aside from the failed HD DVD add-on and all that lovely stuff. So a good old-fashioned eye candy film is a great way to remind myself that, yeah, getting into Blu-ray ahead of the mainstream was awesome. I mean, I had a 1080p TV, and I had 1080p stuff to match. Maybe I can give 4K Blu-ray a try. There are drives for computers, so I can upgrade my computer. I think the new PlayStation can do 4K Blu-ray as well. I think maybe even PS4 could do it. I just got to double check that. Either way, though, 1080p Blu-ray still looks pretty nice. It's not standard def, so it's not going to be smudgy as all heck. It's formatted for widescreen. Can look really nice as a Blu-ray depending on how good the transfer jobs are and everything like that. Fun part is Blu-ray has bargain bins now. Walmart has that sort of stuff, and the prices of players have dropped. You don't need to wing it with a console anymore. Checked prices on players before I went live. So, see here. We are at May of 2021, and for those who may be watching this far in the future because it's YouTube, or listening to it, that's the more likely thing. So, we're in the middle of a semiconductor shortage that's driving up prices of various types of consumer electronics. And despite all of that going on, we live in a day and age now where a $50 Blu-ray player is not a Black Friday special. It's a regular price. I used to compare everything on Newegg, but since Walmart and Best Buy and the big boxers have been trying to get, some good skew of technology into their stores for things like Blu-ray and stuff, there are major brand like Sony and Philips these days, players. And here's how it all stacks out. It used to be the case that Blu-ray would always cost you at least $50 on the computer side, more on the non-computer side. And it was cool when Walmart started selling a $30 DVD player. And that $30 DVD player made DVD pretty much mainstream. It was affordable. There's no more excuse for not being, for not swapping out your VHS tapes for DVDs. So, of course, DVDs wound up playing in Blu-ray players upscaled a little later on. For those of you that, like, oh crap, I got to buy new discs again? No, not totally. So, we went from that to an era where regular DVD players that don't upscale, $20. Cheap. There's even an on player nowadays for some of the... If you want the cheapest way to get into movies possible, and you don't mind it being a smudgy, soft-edged eyesore, DVD, dollar store video disc, players, $20 these days, despite the semiconductor shortage. Upscale DVD. If you want to buy the dollar store video discs, go to a secondhand store. Please get these things off my shelves. $1 a piece. $2 a piece. You buy a bunch of secondhand DVDs. Maybe some of them don't work, but you just take your chances and get a decent movie collection out of the deal. Upscale DVD, $40. 40 something. Blu-ray, OG Blu-ray, 1080p, $50. The new normal. And what is at that $100 mark, that old school Blu-ray, that's now a thing, that old school Blu-ray was at for years, just would never drop below that. What's at that tantalizing $100 mark? 4K Blu-ray. This is not really 4K. That's why I kept it separate. This is Kronos. It was originally made in IMAX and whatnot. It's a 1080p Blu-ray. It's similar to Baraka and Samsara. It's a nice-looking piece of eye candy that was originally made for IMAX theaters. But since the case is different color, I decided to try and be like, 4K. I don't actually have any 4K stuff. And I'm not... I'd have to redesign my setup in order to get a 4K TV in here, because got the speakers in the way, want to put them on stands, put them further back towards the wall, figure out how I'm going to get behind the computer if I have to plug or unplug something. Set something up like that, get clamp stands for the TVs, because the next TV is going to be lighter, so I can probably not use the base for it, and I just put it on an adjustable stand. I could put the center channel underneath it or something, or maybe get a stand for the center channel. Just clamp stuff onto the desk and put screen 2 wherever and have it be adjustable, not sitting on top of a box speaker like I currently have in my setup. You've probably seen it a couple of times before if you watch my videos. But you have all this going on. Yeah, so I don't intend on getting into 4K anytime soon. There's going to be a lot of technical issues when I do that. Not the least of which is that the AV receiver that I've been using for my sound for the last 10 plus years, because it's worked so well, the Onkyo home theater in a box sound system, that is actually that home theater in a box is 1080p. I don't think it'll support 4K. I might try to use it as a sound box or something, or have it detect as 1080p to lower the strain on the graphics card, because also my other monitor is going to be 1080 as well. So I'm going to have a mix of 4K and 1080 whenever I do get the 4K TV. But I think I'm going to have to change out my sound system for a new AV receiver when that happens. So it'll be a bit of a stretch to get up to 4K. It'll be a bit of a project to get that up and running. But when I do, then you know, we'll move forward with that. I'm sure it'll look good too. We checked the numbers earlier. I would benefit from 4K at this distance, not sitting on the couch, but that's also kind of sort of true for OG Blu-ray as well. That's true for OG Blu-ray as well. And what am I doing? I want to keep the trilogy together. So we'll do that. But yeah, that's true for OG Blu-ray as well. So I benefit from the enhanced quality of 1080 over 720 at this distance, not from the couch. Need a much bigger TV in order for that to work. But hey, you know, small house. I'm mostly watching stuff by myself anyways, and who cares if I lose a little quality? That's really what it boils down to. When I've gone into the stores and I've looked at 4K TVs and looked at the demo reels running on them, which nowadays, thank goodness, retailers have caught up with the technology. So you have a situation where retail stores are not they don't have shoddy, worn out store models anymore. Everything looks good on the TV displays, even in something like Walmart. So I think, though, there's going to be a very highly subjective side to people upgrading to 4K. Maybe they have a situation where their 4K, their home theater or their entertainment setup isn't all that great. And so what they're going to do... Movies. What they're going to do is they're not going to benefit from the extra quality depending on where they sit. We talked about view distance in the YouTube short that I just published. Has that thing gotten any views? I'm sure the stream's been demonetized by now. I did accidentally say Procreator earlier, so maybe that tripped the adult filter, and now the stream is demonetized, right? Whoa, YouTube! Thank you for giving me a break for once. Now, how about I get some views on some of these shorts? I'm sick and tired of it looking like the algorithm shut me off after 2 videos, or anything that looks like the computers turn you on and off. Just like, seriously. But anyways, yeah. So people aren't always going to benefit from the setup they have. They're not going to benefit from 4K all the time. I think there's going to be a highly subjective element to it. I know there was when I was looking at some demo reels, and some of these retailers have figured out, have the same demo reel playing on all the screens, so you can actually compare them and pick one out. So there's a Samsung that I'm keeping an eye on that looks really nice. And I think even if I didn't, I don't know if it's OLED or not. OLED's super expensive, but there's this Samsung TV I'm keeping an eye on. It's in Walmart of all places, so I don't have to go buying it from Newegg or anything. But this Samsung TV looks really nice. It's 4K 120. I'm keeping an eye on it in similar models. But it's a subjective thing. Even if I didn't benefit, even if I wasn't going to benefit from the additional resolution of 4K when watching 4K movies, might even still run my computer at 1080 and see how well that works. But even if I wasn't benefiting, I would probably still buy it because it's a pretty looking display. And so we've gotten to this wonderful world where resolution doesn't matter as much anymore. In a day and age where if you do have Blu-ray and a newer Blu-ray player, you might have a streaming Blu-ray player that hooks up to your home network and can stream the movie to mobile devices over your wireless. So, I mean, if you suppose you wife and kids, you and the missus are sitting down one night, guys, gals too, I guess, in this day and age. You and the missus are sitting down one night and you are watching TV, but the Blu-ray player is spinning, but it's not going to your TV. It's sending a movie like Frozen or something. This is probably a dated example in these times. Sending a children's movie through the wireless to their tablets, and they're watching it in their rooms or something. So would the 1080p or 4K of your Blu-ray even matter in today's streaming environment where you could have a Blu-ray player sending something to somebody's phone? That's the thing. It's a whole new world we live in. And this boils down to that thing I said how long ago now? Those magical two words, good enough, and also content is king. Previous discussions in this whole thing that we've had. And what a world we live in nowadays where and I mentioned this earlier, we can take a lesson from what happened with music. CDs were better than MP3s. MP3s were compressed, CDs were not. The only reason MP3s were able to close the gap with CDs is when the record companies made them based on the studio masters, which were higher quality than any retail CD that you could burn and make that you could make MP3s out of, that you could digitize, so you didn't have to risk scratching the disc to listen to your music on your phone or your iPod back in the day or something like that. That was a warning sign of just what happens with the mainstream market. Quality isn't always the biggest thing. And so, you have a situation where quality isn't always the biggest thing. Some people just want to see the content. So you might have somebody buy one of those $20 DVDs players that doesn't even upscale these days and get a whole bunch of DVDs just to see a bunch of movies. They may not want to spend money on anything that's higher quality than upscale DVD, or in that case, non-upscale DVD. Or they might be watching on a very small screen where, who cares if it's standard def? So, I mean, high definition was a selling point at one point when it was new, but now it's just another resolution, just like every other resolution we use. I mean, do you really think if you are watching a 1080p movie on a 5-inch smartphone that you are getting any respectable? What am I doing that for? This big. That's probably not 5 inches. Got the measuring tape over there if I want to check. If you're watching a Blu-ray 1080p movie on a 5-inch smartphone, do the extra pixels even matter? How about the people that watch YouTube on phones with no Bluetooth speaker, so the audio is tinny as all heck? That's just the thing. People watch stuff on all different kinds of things, high quality or not. Welcome to the world where what you watch, when you watch, it's all kind of jumbled together. Maybe you're bored taking a train home from work, and so you're playing a movie on your phone. But you're like, I gotta see this on the big screen. I'm gonna play this again when I get home and I have the 70-inch TV and the big sound system. Oh man, I can't wait till I get home and I don't have to look at this on my stupid phone anymore. That's the world we live in. So any of the selling points of the elitism of Blu-ray and 1080p is better than DVD. That's all stuff that got old. Just like those of us who were around back then to argue back and forth about it. That's the world we live in. HD reality check, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2020s. Now, I've been hanging around, I've been tossing around these 3 Blu-rays and making jokes about this one in particular. This is 3 examples of movies you want that'll show off how nice Blu-ray looks. And it's by the same, what is it? I'm not going to say this guy's name. It sounds vulgar. Might trip some algorithm. This is YouTube after all. So you have Kronos, which is kind of 80s, but made for IMAX. I think the soundtrack, if I remember right, was very, very 80s. Baraka was shot in the early 90s. Looks great. Although today you can tell it was shot with film equipment and not today's more digital stuff. There's a couple of times where you see obvious signs of film at one point. Old school film. Remember film? And then you have Samsara. Samsara is the spiritual successor to Baraka circa the 2010s. This is the most recent eye candy, and this is a great way. I'm keeping this movie handy. This Blu-ray is wonderful for comparing against streaming services. So I crunched the numbers based on Baraka earlier, and then again, you know, the difference between the size of the Blu-ray and the calculated size of the bandwidth you'll use to watch Baraka on Amazon Prime Video at the highest quality, just shy of 7 gigs an hour. You know, mathematics aside, you could always say, oh, well, the special features, yeah, we'll take that out and stuff. I think even if you take out the special features and their length, you still have an hour and a half long movie times the bit rate per hour versus a 50 gig disc. So if you do the math on the special features, you can basically boil it down and see what was a better use of the space. This is a 50 gig Blu-ray, so it's a 50 gig Blu-ray. The Samsara looks amazing. It actually was, this movie was actually made in response to what people liked about this one with far newer technology, and it looks awesome, even at 1080p. I'm probably going to get this on, when I go 4K, Samsara is probably going to be the first thing I pick up on 4K Blu-ray. Maybe I should look for an enthusiast pack that has 4K Samsara with 1080 Samsara. And let me just jump on Amazon. What formats is Samsara available in? Amazon.com. What formats is Samsara available in? I'm in Microsoft Edge, so nothing's saved, but I just want to look. I'm getting herbs and stuff. Okay, there's the movie. There's also the song, too. Some streamers used to dance to that sort of stuff. Okay, I'm on the Amazon Prime Video, which I've already compared to the Blu-ray. The Amazon Prime Video does not look as crisp as the Blu-ray. It's basically the new DVD. It's the mainstream format. It's going to look nice, but if you want all the detail, get the Blu-ray, even the 1080p Blu-ray. So, purchase options. I don't want a digital copy. Oh, okay, fine. Samsara Blu-ray. Amazon. There you go. Samsara Blu-ray. 1080 Blu-ray is a thing. You can stream it, but we know the stream isn't as good as the 10. Is there a 4K release in the works? Huh, interesting. Huh, well then. I'd say, yeah. I mean, if the movie was made in 8K, there should be a 4K Blu-ray of Samsara out there somewhere, or a way to stream it in 4K. But even streaming, I mean, if we have discs that are big enough to hold 4K movies, might as well use that storage in something that you can carry and stuff. So, wait a minute here. Let me just Google that. This is the Google era after all. Samsara 4K Blu-ray. Is that a thing? Is that gonna be a thing? There's regular Blu-ray here. But if the movie was made in 8K, there should be a way to do 4K here. Best 4K. Samsara needs to come out on 4K UHD. Okay, this is just too darn bright. Let's turn this into a stage light. Put it down in the corner, like down in the lower left or something. Help with the lighting. People are going to think I'm using my ring lights. Until the website's blue or something. July 7th, 2018. On the Blu-ray forums, let's mute the tab in case there's an ad that's going to play or something. All right. Samsara needs to come out on 4K UHD Blu-ray. Blown away by the 4K HDR on my ATV 4K Freaking need Baraka. Don't know what else to type. Oh, man. Samsara just upgraded to 4K HDR in Apple iTunes movies. Ooh. If I buy the movie on iTunes, am I still streaming it? Or is there a humongous download that I have to get? Oh, man. So apparently, oh, yeah, so, but it shouldn't be surprising in today's day and age that the streaming services got 4K Samsara first. Shouldn't be surprising at all. I mean, streaming is the new mainstream way of watching stuff. But if there's any way for there to be a quality edge on physical media, that's when we'd want to see a 4K release of something like this. Until then, hey, the 1080 was pretty nice looking in and of itself, too. I mean, there's a close-up of this Balinese dancer, and you can see the makeup where she put it on her face. That's how good the cameras were for this. It was shot in 8K. It's going to look great. So, that's the world we live in. A world where I'm surprised there isn't a Blu-ray release, but considering what happened with Blu-ray, and how 4K Blu-ray is the enthusiast format, but any physical media at all is automatically an enthusiast format, I should not be surprised whatsoever that, the streaming services like iTunes Movies got this in 4K first. Well, I don't have a 4K TV, so I'm not going to be in any real rush to see this, but I'm actually curious. If you buy that on iTunes, okay, iTunes Movies, it's got to be a DRM thing. We know the movie studios are crazy. Samsara on iTunes. I think if you buy it, you're just going to be streaming it. No way they're going to have 4K stuff that people are just downloading and stuff like that. No way. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, man. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Released in 2012. Yeah, that's what I thought. You do up to 7.1 audio on this thing. But I'm guessing you can't download it. I'm guessing you're going to have to stream it through iTunes. I don't think there's a download available. So, no. Oh, why should I be surprised? So in this wonderful world where streaming is taking over everything and any physical media at all is automatic enthusiast format, you got to ask yourself, what's going to happen to physical media? And what's going to happen with streaming? And this is where I want to make the wild, off-the-wall predictions about the 2020s. Number one, I don't think Netflix is going to survive the 2020s. They do original content, but if that doesn't get big enough for them to turn into a pseudo-Disney type entity, they built themselves up on something that they've been wandering away from for years. One of the things I've disliked the most about Netflix in all of their history was the time that they decided to cave to Wall Street and monetize everything more by splitting off discs from streaming. So, 2 separate memberships. Instead of $8 a month for standard def streaming plus DVDs, you now had to have separate subscriptions for both physical and streaming media. Now, the Netflix of today, the disc Netflix of today, let's double check this to make sure it didn't go out of business during the pandemic. The disc Netflix of today is DVD.com, a Netflix company. Yep, they're still around. Yay! So, you still have disc Netflix available. It's still a thing, even though it seems old at this point. But I remember I love the convenience of streaming on Netflix even before the split. But the one thing that always bothered me about Netflix streaming was that killer titles that I really wanted to watch would usually not be on the streaming service. So you'd have a situation like Hunt for Red October, very classic 80s submarine movie, classic submarine movie in general. The Jack Ryan movies that came out after Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Sum of All Fears, not so popular. You'll see those available to watch with ads on streaming services these days. You might see them on TV from time to time, depending on what channels you have in your cable package, if you still watch TV. But Hunt for Red October, I mean, I ran Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. Didn't like Sum of All Fears too much. But the Harrison Ford movies, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger. I've run both of those movies on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime Video. I look for Hunt for Red October. Can't stream it. And even in the days before Netflix split up, there were gotchas like that. You'd be interested in a movie and its sequels, the sorts of things you would get in a DVD box set or something. And either the movie would be streamable, but its sequels required you to buy discs or get the disc subscription, or you could watch the sequels on the streaming service, but you would need to go buy a disc or use the disc service to get the original that was more popular. So there's been gotchas on streaming services for a long time, even before rights holders started getting in on the action themselves. Then Netflix splits up. the problem gets a bit more exacerbated because now you got to ask yourself, do I want to keep my Netflix subscription if I'm going to be constantly limited because certain movies are only available with the disc service that I don't want to pay for because I thought Reed Hastings was too greedy, kowtowing to the shareholders when he split off discs from streaming into separate services. Nowadays, DVD.com, little tiny thing these days compared to what it used to be. What exactly did they gain from that? Has DVD.com gotten small enough that Netflix should just reabsorb it into the main company? So you pay like $10 a month for Netflix, match Amazon Prime Video's price, and throw in the disc service in addition to the streaming for whatever you may still want to have sent in the little red envelopes. Have we progressed to that point yet where Netflix wants to rethink that split they did over a decade ago, I believe? Was it a decade ago? I know it was early 2010s, So, you got to ask yourself, have we gotten to that point? Especially when all physical media of any kind is an automatic enthusiast thing. Same thing with DVDs. I mean, why would you specifically want a DVD instead of streaming? Why would you want a Blu-ray instead of streaming? Probably the answers to those questions flag you as an enthusiast who wants to see the director commentaries, the bonus features, the increased quality of physical media, things like that. So the minute you go physical, you're interested in some way beyond, streaming it some, or maybe it's not on the streaming services. That's another point. You get stuff like old DVDs and stuff. You got to track down the DVDs because maybe they were never high enough quality to really justify a Blu-ray release. That's why I've recently ordered my first DVD that I've ordered in years. Ordered off Amazon for a movie called Outsourced, which I can actually stream in HD, on Prime Video. But I want a physical copy because it's a movie I used to watch on Netflix a lot. It makes fun of the outsourcing wave, which I'm very familiar with as a computer information systems graduate, where everything was outsourced right after I graduated college and I wound up working in warehouses. Very familiar with that kind of stuff. But I want to have a copy of that movie in my collection, even if the rights holders decide to pull the movie from Amazon Prime Video and maybe send it to Netflix or iTunes or something along those lines. That's the fundamental problem with streaming. That's the fundamental problem with streaming services. The catalog is persistently changing, and gamers are getting acquainted with this a bit too, with Nintendo Switch Online. With games getting added or removed from what you get with the subscription service for Nintendo Switch Online versus the old virtual console, which I actually liked better. It's one of the deterrents to me getting a Switch and one of the reasons why I still have a Wii U. I mean, it's an HD Mario box with emulated games I can buy from a digital storefront. So, the functionality hasn't been matched yet on the Switch. There's Nintendo Switch Online, but I don't want the whims of some company to cut down my collection of games, so to speak. And in the same way with movies, too. I mean, how many articles have been written out there about, watch these before they're pulled off of Netflix? So, maybe a situation where you don't get around to watching something and then it's off the streaming service and you gotta go buy a disc anyways. But I think fundamentally, besides the rights holders being fickle with what they have on streaming services and what they don't, we also got to think about what exactly defines a streaming service in the first place. We have to think about that as well. Up to this point, we've talked about streaming services in terms of Netflix, third-party streaming services that were basically video rental stores that eventually got into streaming. What's this smudge? Oh, this is an old DVD. I got to clean it up. Gross. Let's hold it upside down. So, where'd you get another DVD? Got more than one DVD in this pile, don't I? Yeah, way the heck down to the bottom. Hold on a second. So yeah, up to this point, this is what? This is The Mask. We'll just take Jurassic World there. Knocking over some Tylenol thingies. Let's take the Clint Eastwood movies. There we go. Take the old Clint Eastwood movie. Let's take the Clint Eastwood movies here. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Hang 'em High. Still got to watch Hang 'em High. But, you go and you get one of these. You go and you get something like this. And all that other lovely stuff. Streaming services. What streaming services have been up to this point is like online video stores and stuff that evolved into one-size-fits-all streaming services until streaming technology got mature enough that rights holders could start licensing the technology and running their own services. This is probably a very valid critique of the way online media works these days, but there are just too many subscription services out there and they're far too fragmented. Literally, every rights holder has something going on right now, and more of them are popping into the market by the day. Every rights holder has something going on right now, and there's little gotchas behind them all. Take Pluto TV, for example. Who would think that Viacom would ever embrace a technology like this? But the catch with Pluto TV is that I don't think there's DVR on-demand functionality. I think they're just broadcasting something, and you just got to watch what's on TV. So it's a little restricted in that. There's also Peacock TV for NBC. And then you have the services that you're seeing advertised, like ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus. Rights holders are all starting their own streaming services for like $5 to $10 a month. And if you don't turn your subs on and off, depending on what you're watching or binge watching, in the case of after-the-fact content like movies and stuff like that, if you don't turn your subs on and off, you could probably accidentally end up paying more for your subscriptions than you used to pay for cable. You've recreated the cable TV problem, spending too much money on channels you're not watching enough to justify the cost. So cable TV 2.0. But these streaming services, for the rights holders, fragment the living daylights out of everything. And then you have to ask yourself what titles are available. Yeah, Disney Plus is being sold all over the place right now to drive adoption. Yeah, you can watch all the Disney movies. Snow White, The Seven Dwarfs, Little Mermaid, this, that, the other. Some of the older stuff has disclaimers because of cultural insensitivity and stuff like that in today's day and age. Yeah, okay. What happens when these rights holder streaming services become more established? What happens when Disney gets more established with streaming? Do they turn into Netflix, where certain movies are taken on and off the service at differing times of the year? So, when the corporate brass at the streaming services decide to monetize everything to the hilt, and people get sick of wondering, is this on Netflix this month? Is this on Disney Plus this month? When too many people do this, then guess what? Drives sales of physical media. Because good-looking physical media like OG Blu-ray has gotten very inexpensive. You don't even need a player if you have a more modern game console. Even the PS3 counts. If you have a gaming console, you can probably play this. If you have a computer that has the CPU, which a lot of people do, to play an HD movie, Blu-ray drives, there's a price floor on them nowadays. So because of the semiconductor shortage and I'm guessing other crap that's going on, we now have $70 BD rewritable drives these days. I checked Newegg earlier. Let me actually go on to Amazon because I think Newegg's in trouble. I think Newegg is in trouble. Some nice lighting again. I think Newegg's in trouble because they're, all these big all-in-one retailers just crushing all the little guys. So, as much as I like Newegg, I don't know how they're even competitive anymore. BDRE drive. What's available? On Newegg, there's a price. Pioneer BD rewritable, $70. It's an internal drive. So if your computer has a 5 1/4 bay, you can put that in. The LG one that I have, the M Disc, $59.99. Now, if I want a BDRE drive that does 4K, what am I looking at for that? Internal drives. There's external drives that are 100 plus. They're basically USB Blu-ray players, and they're going to be sold to a more mainstream audience anyway, so why not make money off of those people? Of course, I don't have a very good history with Blu-ray drive. There's one. LG, will it play? No, this is the $70 one we were looking at earlier. I'm looking for one that plays 4K. BDXL for $80. The Asus drive is $80. I'm looking for one that can play 4K Blu-ray. This is one of the problems with Blu-ray on PC. See. LG, it's showing me the same stuff again. There's the light on one. The descendant of, it's about time we put this thing in the stream. The descendant of my plug-in drive. This could only read Blu-ray. It couldn't even burn CDs. It just has read lasers for Blu-rays, DVDs, and CD-ROMs. So, my old plug-in drive. The descendant, the light-on descendant of my old plug-in drive. No! It's old stock. It's only a 6-speed. It just has DVD rewritables. $60. But you drop your Blu-ray speed way down if you get a drive that isn't a burner. So, and yeah, by the way, if you don't have a computer with a optical drive in the case, build a plug-in drive. 5 1/4 enclosure, make sure it gets enough power, put some rubber feet on the bottom so it doesn't scratch whatever it's on top of, and put a Blu-ray drive in it. This Blu-ray drive, this plug-in drive right here, standardized USB with the D connectors and everything. But this little Blu-ray drive right here is the most reliable plug-in Blu-ray drive I have ever had. Should try using it again to see if it still works. But it's a basic computer optical drive inside an enclosure with rubber feet on the bottom, and you plug it in through USB. And since I bought my last Blu-ray program, Cyberlink Power DVD 15, through Steam, I have account-based access to Blu-ray playback on any computer that I install Steam on. One of the reasons why I wanted to go to that, aside when Total Media Theater was no longer a thing. So let's see. Yeah, here it is. So the Pioneer drive on Amazon that supports 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray playback is $140. So there's where your expensive drives are going to come from. Now, if I want to make a 4K Blu-ray drive for that, I would probably spend $100 and something on that. It's a Pioneer, though. Let's go to Newegg. Newegg.com. 4K Blu-ray drive. Is there something less expensive on there? The LG one. Does it support 4K, though? See here. Where's one that's actually advertising that it supports 4K? There it is. Yeah, $160 for the LG. With how 4K technology, 4K Blu-ray is an enthusiast technology, the creme de la creme of enthusiast technology, which all physical media pretty much is nowadays. If I had that going on, I'd spend the $100 and something on the drive and then put it in an enclosure. It would not go in any of my computers. I'll just take it anywhere I need to play movies. It'd be the successor to the plug-in drive that did 1080 or something. Or I'd buy a newer enclosure. Actually, if I go to Newegg, 5 1/4, let me just go back to Newegg here. What are we looking at for a cost on a 5 1/4 drive, on a 5 1/4 drive enclosure? 5.25 drive enclosure for optical. Used to be like $20, $30. So the sad part is I could probably get a 4K Blu-ray player for less. There it is. Vantech NST 536S3 BK 5 1/4 Blu-ray DVD CD serial ATA super speed USB, so it runs off a USB 3. So I probably want to get that for the 4K drive anyways to get a faster transfer speed over the USB. So yeah, $43, but that's a third-party enclosure. So why don't we go back to Amazon here? We go back to the wonderful world of Amazon Prime. 5.25 enclosure Blu-ray. Looking for the computer part. Yeah, there's an enclosure with no drive for $55, but how does it work? Does it work with USB? Let's see. Yep, it's USB 3. It's USB 3.1 Gen 1 as a power switch, 12 volt 1 amp device. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a generic enclosure. It even has rubber feet on the bottom from the looks of it, sort of. Yeah, there's an enclosure on Amazon. You just put a 5 1/4 drive in it for $50. So you'll spend about $150 for the Blu-ray drive. See, that's the stupid part because, again, Blu-ray on the PC is a failure. So if you want to get nerdy like that and just buy a Blu-ray drive, it's going to cost you $200 between the drive and the enclosure, or $150 just for the drive. While a 4K Blu-ray player, we've seen around the $100 mark. I don't know if there's maybe some chart. Yeah, the LG one. Sony 4K upscaling 3D streaming Blu-ray, $100. Sony 4K. Or maybe I was looking at the wrong thing. 4K upscaling 3D streaming Blu-ray disc player. So, oh, it upscales to 4K. It's like the upscaled DVD player. Okay, yeah. All right. So my numbers were off. Well, this is the first time I'm looking at this for a long time. LG Blu-ray with streaming services, a built-in Wi-Fi. That's regular Blu-ray for $100. Interesting. All right, so yeah, it's an enthusiast technology. It's going to cost you hundreds. Good to look over this stuff anyways. How about on Amazon? 4K Blu-ray player. Not looking for 4K upscaling. Although it's cool to know that that's a thing. I want something that plays it native. Sony UBP X700 streaming 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player with a 4K HDMI cable, $200-something. Regular Blu-ray for $100. Panasonic streaming 4K Blu-ray player, $200. So yeah, it's enthusiast technology. Okay, maybe there is some merit to taking the computer route into 4K Blu-ray. Just buying a 4K Blu-ray drive and you'll probably cross past the cost of a new player if you need to upgrade your software. So to play 4K Blu-ray, I don't know. I don't know if my Cyberlink could actually play a 4K movie or not. Maybe it won't recognize the format. Who knows? But that's the world we live in. 4K Blu-ray is the enthusiast format of enthusiast formats, although I still wonder about 4K Blu-rays, considering how OG Blu-ray turned out. Reflection. There we go. Get some blue in the reflection there because it's a Blu-ray disc. Haha, get the joke. So considering the problems that Blu-rays have with a fingerprint smudge could mess up the laser. I can only imagine what that's like on a 4K disc that holds that much more information. Oh man. Maybe we're trying a little too hard to hold on to this old format, this old optical disc that's been around for about as long as I have. Oh, yeah. First CDs, then DVDs, then Blu-rays, now 4K Blu-rays. Whatever. Hey, I want you to stay in the pile, Samsara. That's more like it. But that's the world we live in. Welcome to the 2020s. If I can think of things to make videos about related to this, I will. If I can think of stuff, I want to do a commentary on some of my old, this is the way it used to be, commentaries from like 2009, 2010, maybe even the ones from 2015 as well. But it's a whole new world that we live in. And who would have thought back in the days when Blu-ray was expensive to get into, movies were $30 or $35 each, and stuff like that, that it would only take a decade to end up with $7, $10 Blu-rays in bargain bins at Walmart, and have even a format as good looking as Blu-ray superseded by a 4K successor, as well as streaming services that allow for streaming in 4K if you have the internet for it, the usual limiter to whether or not streaming can approach what Blu-ray can do. But here we are in this wonderful world where this is cheap and affordable, and it upscales to 4K if you have an upscaling player with for your 4K TV. So you have options, ladies and gentlemen. If there's anybody out there that still says, oh, I'm fine with upscale DVD or even regular DVD, I'm just going to ask, how cheap are you trying to be? Because even a couple of years ago, with stuff like Star Wars The Force Awakens, we compared the DVD release price with the Blu-ray combo release price. This is the part where we can actually let's bring out a combo pack. Yeah, let's like this Jurassic World one. I don't want to dig Frozen out of the stack once again. But this is the thing. I mean, you have all these combo packs everywhere. Blu-ray, DVD, digital. You have all these combo packs all over the place. I mean, if you're still doing DVD, I mean, unless you want to build up a movie collection as cheap as you possibly can from secondhand stores, I don't know. The idea of an upscaled DVD on a 4K TV, how is that not an eyesore waiting to happen? Considering it was originally made for 480 resolution and you're cranking up your screen to 2160. How does that even work? The thing is, though, I'm so tempted to see what technology can do nowadays. I'm so tempted to take the tech videos in this direction. Since I know that $40 upscale players are available at Walmart, why not just, not buy pizza for a month or something like that. Don't order pizza for a month. I need to lose the weight anyways. And just spend $40 on one of those Sony upscaler players in the little red box. See how it stacks up to the PS3. So maybe I can burn my own DVDs, so I can shoot some really nice looking footage and make my own stuff so you don't have copyright issues while comparing how sharp the image is. I have a Blu-ray burner. I can burn my own Blu-rays. Heck with that. Shoot some really nice 1080p footage, burn my own Blu-ray, and if it plays in the Blu-ray players, compare the quality with that. I just need a camera that's good enough so it won't look like an eyesore. I don't know if my soup can camcorders will do that, but maybe put in a tripod so the camera doesn't shake too much. Yeah, I haven't thought of that. I can make my own Blu-ray movie and then use it to compare. Oh, man. I'm never going to do anything cool in this channel again, am I? Because I'm going to be so busy working on this now. Make my own Blu-ray movie so I don't have copyright issues comparing Blu-ray players. Oh, man. I am totally off my rocker tonight. But it's a wonderful world we live in. You can have some good-looking movies easily. Now, let's get back to the point that we said about the whole streaming service. I think the streaming services are going to be convenient and mainstream, and people are going to watch whatever's available. But with how fragmented things are going to get because of greedy rights holders, I think people who want to really be in control of being able to watch anything at any time, physical media, especially with how cheap Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray has gotten, I think physical media is the ticket. Have it in a shelf somewhere or something like that, but hey, you don't have to worry about whether the movie was taken off, whether the movie was taken off the service or not. You can go to secondhand stores, because secondhand stores have Blu-rays nowadays. There was one secondhand store I went to once that had Blu-rays for like $4. That's less expensive than Walmart. So, yeah, head on out and go pick up head on up, get yourself a cheap movie collection. And as the price of Blu-ray drops, because 4K Blu-ray drops, you're going to have a good-looking collection on the cheap. Especially with all these Blu-ray DVD combo packs, which let you get the other format too, in case you want to watch the DVD for whatever reason. But hey, physical media. I don't think there's ever been a better time to get involved in a physical movie collection like this. Between the bargain bins, the secondhand stores, a technology over the top of Blu-ray now, so there's something for all the early adopter dollars to go to with the 4K setups. So that way the people that bought those nice 4K TVs have something that actually works on them. In today's world, 1080p movie collections, there's never been a better time to get in on this. What a wonderful world we live. So this is why I just want to do kind of a general introduction to how things are getting with Blu-rays and stuff in the 2020s. It's a different world than the 2010s. And quite frankly, I really don't see why there needs to be any more drama about the old format war or people making excuses for Blu-ray and stuff like that. I think maybe the big thing to look at is how streaming has developed. And that's the key reason I kept getting away from it earlier. That's the key reason why I've been doing a lot with this Samsara Blu-ray, because Samsara is available free with ads, I think, on Amazon Prime Video. So I went over there and I did the math. Obviously, that the file they're sending over to your computer to stream with is going to be smaller. But I actually compared some scenes from Samsara, gorgeous visuals, by the way. I compared some scenes from Samsara on the Blu-ray to some scenes from Samsara on Amazon Prime Video. Indigestion, what the heck? Right. I compared some stuff from Amazon Prime Video to the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is the 1080p Blu-ray, not even talking 4K yet. It's still higher quality. One of the first scenes that you see this happen, there's a scene of clouds billowing. On the Blu-ray, they have very sharply defined edges down to the pixel. On Amazon Prime Video, they're fuzzy. Not as fuzzy as maybe a DVD being upscaled would be, with how much of an eyesore DVDs can be these days in this day and age of cheap Blu-ray. But it's interesting that Samsara and Baraka are available on a streaming service free with ads. It's cool. It's great for a quality comparison, though. You want to compare how Blu-ray holds up against the streaming services as they make progress? I'm so tempted to get Samsara on iTunes now. How much does that cost? How much does it cost to buy a digital copy of Samsara for iTunes movies? I want to compare all this stuff. Let's see here. iTunes, movies, Samsara. What's the cost of that? Samsara on iTunes, Apple. What does it cost? $13 for 4K HDR on iTunes. I'm sure that's something you stream. No way in hell you'd download something like that unless there was DRM all over the place. But iTunes has had DRM before. Huh, well then. Hey, you know, what I could do is, I mean, this camera is made for 60 FPS, but I usually do it in 30 FPS because it handles the low light incredibly well when it's doing 30. I'm wondering if there might be a way where, you know, the quality of the movie being 4K at the beginning will make it look better than the Blu-ray if I play it through iTunes. The ISPs in my neck of the woods don't have bandwidth caps. I recently had my provisioning speed jumped up. I bet I could stream in 4K and compare the quality. I have a nerd project! Can't make any videos about it for copyright reasons, but can always come back here and talk about it. One of the things we can do with shows like this. Well then, I have a curiosity to satiate, so I best get to work on nerding it up so I can at least get that done before sunrise. Last day before going back to work. Saturday is a chores day anyway, so I don't know if I'll be able to do anything, but I will say, my Twitch channel has activity again. Twitch.tv/MultimediaJay. Head on over and click follow. And I'm making progress in ESO on there. However, I also, in the vein of this multimedia stuff and movies in particular, want to make use of the Amazon Watch Party feature. If Baraka and Samsara are available to do an Amazon Watch Party with, don't know if they are, if they're imdb.tv movies, I would actually like to make use of the Watch Party feature at some point. It's got to be Twitch specific, though, because of the copyright stuff that's involved. And the fact that your stream basically gets married up. The fact that your stream basically gets married up with the copyright material, so it's not an actual infringement. And only Amazon Prime folks can actually watch. Huh. I gotta check that out. But most importantly, I gotta check out Samsara. See if the 4K HDR version looks better than the Blu-ray, even though I don't have a 4K TV. Because the source material is, well, the source material for this Blu-ray was 8K. So I'm really just kind of field testing how good the transfer was when it went to Blu-ray. Well, folks, if you were wondering where the multimedia stuff was on my channel, here it is. Well, here it's been. Computers, movies, Blu-ray, home entertainment setups, sound systems, Twitch versus YouTube, video production, streaming, all this lovely stuff. Yeah, I am a multimedia enthusiast. Always have been. Can't imagine myself any other way. Be sure to check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/MultimediaJay for progress on the MMOs, some experiment, and the ongoing experiment with trying to close the bitrate gap with YouTube as someone who streams on both Twitch and YouTube and compares the services regularly. I think Twitch, to be more competitive, would want to move in the direction of YouTube or not have a problem with YouTube streamers on their service who do. But if I get banned, oh well. It'd be a stupid reason to do that, but wanting, to have a reason to even stream over there in the first place. But that's another discussion altogether. Right, the Samsara experiment begins. And to think, I'm looking at all this Blu-ray stuff, 1080, 4K, source material, and yet many of the Twitch streamers I watch are doing 720p because of mobile data limits. Maybe there's a use for video in this day and age of streaming everything. But isn't that what we've been saying? Streaming is kind of mainstream nowadays, and everything else has gone enthusiast. I suppose we can find a way to cope, those of us old-timers who are used to the way things used to be. Well, when things change, you got to adapt. I want to get my questions answered about, maybe there's a trailer I can watch and see how good it looks. Let's do that. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.